My name is Jill Harris. I'm the voice of Suletta Mercury in Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, and you are listening to The Gundam Watch.
Right, let's see here. All the papers seem to be in order. Man, I'm so glad Branson finally stopped playing with my Gunpla and put that back after he broke the V fin off of the RX-7 Branson!
Rotate, camera.
Branson, what's going on in here? Why does it stink? Is it poofy?
Place.
No.
Place.
Branson,
Buffet.
Branson,
What?
Branson,
What?
snap. Branson, wake up.
Huh? What?
What are you doing?
Dioramas.
When did you bathe last?
2 weeks ago? Maybe?
Branson.
Oh! Do they have a shower in the diorama? I could do a diorama of Gundam taking a shower. Search.
Your beard is so matted, it's dreadlocking, Branson. Branson.
W. What? You think I should add a beard to the Gundam?
All right, it's time to go.
Can you do that?
General Romeo coming in, begin transmission. Should you accept it now, here's your mission. Take your pilot seat and turn on your television. Logging into the Gundam Watch. What is a Gundam? We're gonna answer that question. From back in the classics to the newer expansion. Explore the lore with Dallas and Branson. Welcome to the Gundam Watch. Moyagare, come and join the Gundam Watch. Moyagare, come and join the Gundam Watch. Yamigaeru, come and join the Gundam Watch. Romeo, Gandamu, come and join the Gundam Watch. Brought to you by Geek Devotions comes another podcast to keep your feet in motion. Listening close and see what's all the commotion. Logging into the Gundam Watch. Dallas and Branson bringing their fandom to you with the passion of the veteran instructing the new. We're diving deep, but this ain't B's Views and Reviews. Welcome to the Gundam Watch.
Hello, Gundam fans, and those who would like to become Gundam fans. Welcome to the Gundam Watch, a podcast where we examine Mobile Suit Gundam step by step and have a little bit of fun. This is part of the Geek Devotions Podcast Network, a podcast network of podcasts that are devoted to letting people know they love. So if you don't listen past this moment, know this: we love you, we care about you. There is a plan and a purpose for your life. Do not give up, ladies and gentlemen. Joining me today on Shiro Base, high above the Planet Geekery, is my freshly showered and shaved co-pilot Branson. How you doing, bud?
Doing good. Did you know that there's like a whole layer of dust that develops on top of your skin when you play video games for 2 weeks straight?
Branson, that's called rot.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I had to sanitize the entire freaking ship just now.
Wow. But hey, I've got some great dioramas.
Oh my goodness gracious. Lord have mercy.
I just
ladies
want
and
to point
gentlemen,
out.
Yes.
I just want to point out. I did not even know this video game existed until you mentioned it to me and had me watch that anime.
Yep. That happened.
This is your fault. I just want to point out that this is your fault.
Branson, your parents taught you how to bathe, bud. I'm not taking this one.
But they never told me there's dioramas out there.
All right, for those of you who want to know what the heck is happening, it's kind of a special episode of the Gundam Watch because instead of a normal reviewing of an anime series, if you've been following, you know that Branson and I, we reviewed Gundam Breaker Battle Log, which is kind of a bridger into the video game Gundam Breaker 4 on the PS5, PS4. And it is an interesting game. I enjoyed playing it. Branson enjoyed playing it. End of podcast. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Branson has nothing to say about dioramas or anything at all. So long, folks.
Don't do me dirty like that. Come on now. Don't do me dirty like that.
Oh, man. For those of you who are wondering, like, okay, what the heck is this game? This is the description of the game that got offline. The game's story is set 6 years after the events of Gundam Breaker 3. The original Gunpla battle simulator has since evolved and made its way from the arcade scene to home devices as Gunpla Battle Blaze Beyond Borders, GBBBB, or GB4 for short. Interesting marketing right there. The player takes on the role of a newcomer participating in an open beta test of the game alongside their former clan consisting of their formed clan consisting of a young newcomer named Tao, who specializes in SD Gunpla, and Lin, a straightforward, aggressive fighter. During the story, the player's reputation will grow and begin to attract the attention of seasoned players. They will also meet veteran players from previous games, such as Ryusei Fudo and older Misa Satukusina. All right.
Cool.
So that is the run by the game. And basically, again, we kind of teased this. We talked about this a little bit last time when we talked about Gundam Breaker, but I feel like we do need to give some context. Ladies and gentlemen, there's this thing called Gunpla, and it's the models. If you're
Yes.
new to Gundam, this is a thing that people love and hate because it's expensive. And and buying a video game is cheaper, ladies and gentlemen. And
yes,
um,
indeed.
in preparation, I've been checking out what other people have been saying, and this is technically the 6th installment in the series Gundam Breaker. However, one of them is ignored because dumpster fire. The other one, I think people forget about it because it was a mobile game,
Ah,
and
was
so
it a console?
yeah, because like Misa, she's from the game
Uh,
or from the mobile game, and Ryusei is from Gundam Breaker 3. The game is done by Crafts and Meister Co., who worked on games such as Resident Evil 3, the game we shall not speak of, New Gundam Breaker, Paper Mario Color Splash, actually, Branson,
oh,
which is it was
interesting.
one of the more successful games on the Wii U.
Yeah, yeah. My two boys are avid watchers of a YouTuber called Zebra Gamer,
Oh, okay.
and they watched his playthrough of that game. They really
Oh,
enjoyed it.
bet.
Yeah.
Very cool. So also Fire Emblem Fates, Birthright and Conquest, which were 3DS games, Gundam Breaker 2, and Gundam Breaker. So they've been here since the beginning,
Wow.
basically. Yeah, and so um, kind of again, they have history with franchise and a lot of stuff, but let's dive into it. The conversation at hand: is this a good game? Is it not a good game? Let's break it down. And today, Branson, I'm going to break it down, talking about the story, the customization, because again, this is a what's the word I'm looking for? A game about building. We're going to talk
Mhm.
about the fighting, the actual gameplay, and also a little thing that Branson has no desire to talk about, which is dioramas. So,
Oh,
Branson, which one do you
goodness.
want to attack first, brother?
Let's go in the order you mentioned. Let's start with the story, because
Okay.
from what I understand, that's kind of a contentious subject right now.
It is. So again, in preparation, I was listening to it, and a lot of people that are like, they're not impressed with the story at all.
Mhm.
They feel like the lines are weak, and that the story is not a great story to follow along. In fact, one player is like, I genuinely don't know what the story is. I just skip all the cutscenes.
Oh,
But and well, first off, let me ask you this, Branson.
yeah.
Without going too much details about it,
Mhm.
what are your thoughts on the story? Have you enjoyed it? Is it a good story?
Um, I've enjoyed it. I
Hmm.
honestly have. It it's not a deep dive into the inner thoughts and inner workings of characters. I mean, it's a pretty light story.
Hmm.
Uh, but I have enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it enough that, unlike this other fellow, I haven't been tempted to skip the cutscenes. I've genuinely wanted to know what's going on. It feels very, very similar to the Gundam Breaker Battle Log anime that we watched. That whole
Hmm.
concept of a lot of the things that we discussed in that show about how it's lighthearted, it's not serious major stakes, but within the realm of the story, it's serious. So villains don't seem like they're trying to take over the world, but they are villains within the context of the game
Right.
and the competition. The characters are likable. you know, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like it's Shakespeare in video game format. All right, it is
Right.
not a overly complicated, deep
Shakespeare in video
story,
game format.
but it's fun. It's
Yeah.
for me, I can relax playing the game through the story just as much as I could with some of the other aspects of the game because it is so lighthearted.
Yeah.
So, but there again, I'm a firm believer and I want my entertainment to help me escape. If
Mm-hmm.
it's too realistic, I start to enjoy it less because
Right.
I deal with the real world all the time.
Yeah.
If I'm going to take the time to sit down and watch a movie or play a video game, I want to be able to escape it at least a little bit, you know.
Sure.
So I have an appreciation for that. So I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's worth scoring. I can understand how it might not be someone's favorite story,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it deserves to be skipped necessarily.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same camp as you. Again, at the same time, one of the guys who said that it just wasn't his thing, legitimately. I'm not gonna call any names out because I don't want. We're not here to shame folks, and I'm not shaming him. It's a person I actually respect greatly in some of the circles that I'm in. But just knowing him, not knowing him personally, but just kind of from what I've seen of his reviews and stuff like that, he prefers the more serious stuff,
Uh-huh.
and Gundam Breaker is just not his thing. The build series was not his thing, and if you're not into some of the lighter, harder stuff, I think the story will be lost on you.
Mm.
Again, it feels like they put a lot into the game. We're gonna get into how much is in this game.
Yeah.
The story is a tool, in my opinion, at least especially in the first few chapters, of teaching you how to play the main mechanics of the game and
Yes.
some of the ideas of it. And but at the same time, if you listen to the story, they deal with some hard stuff. They're dealing with people who are going through stuff that honestly, um, I appreciated in on multiple levels. I appreciated certain aspects of the game. We were streaming it the other night, and I was just genuinely like, oh my gosh, like this is happening and this is happening. And there's some goofy moments. The SD Gundam guy Tao is just I'm like, bro, I need you to like take your ADD medicine and chill out. Like you are just like, oh no, he's just losing his mind, right? You got another character
Yeah.
named Mashima who he's like, hey, I'm a ladies' man. Everyone was like, please
Stop
just
talking.
stop. You're embarrassing your soul. You know? But it's
What's
fun. Look,
What's really
huh?
fun though is that watching the way these people interact with each other and just the different personality types,
Mhm.
it reminds me of our fencing days.
Oh
Like
Lord.
how it was just a hodgepodge of completely different personality types. And we all
Yeah,
had one thing that unified us, and that was our love of fencing. And that
man.
is definitely what I see in this is that in other social circles, this group of people probably would not be friends at all, but they all love Gunpla, and that's what draws them together.
Man, you just brought this down to a new level for me because I had not drawn that link together till just now, and you're not. It really is like that. When the story, that's what the story is. It's people who they come from different backgrounds and they just have a love for something
Mhm.
specific, and they kind of build it. We had people on our team that outside of the team, if we weren't had the team, I would have never met, would never hung out with,
Right.
and just wouldn't have been a thing. And
Yeah.
so you're not kidding. It really is like that dynamic. My
Yeah.
brain is literally just went,
It's amazing what happens when I take a shower.
Branson, you should do it more often. Mandy's been complaining. She's reached out to me. She's a Dallas. It's a problem. I need you. We're having an intervention, and so here you go. No. So, but no, they're just different small things that they're again. There's the dynamic of everybody. It's just a little bit different, but then
Yeah.
you also have just small emotional things that it
Mhm.
get to me, and some of it's just because of how I'm wired and the type of
Mhm.
people that the Lord's called me to help and to
Yeah.
serve. Lynn, man, this poor kid, she's angry and she's pushing out, and she's not appreciative of things. You're like, man, you're a brat, and like legit, like this chick is a brat. What's wrong with you? But then you get into a little bit of her story about how she's lost her family,
Mm,
and and you realize that she's not doing stuff just to be rude, but because she's pushing herself to be better, because she doesn't want to have people rely on her. She wants to be strong for people.
right.
And there's a whole conversation in that we can have later if you want to, but
Right.
there's a story that's there, and again, it spans out. I was playing later chapters, and there's a character that I'm not trying not to spoil it for you because I know you're not as far as I am, but there is a villain, and he's very villainous. You're pretty confident that him and his crew are actually cheating at the tournament.
They're the ones causing the glitch potentially.
But they're going after one of the characters. I'm like, no, what are you doing? Stop it.
Ooh.
And yeah. But there's again, it's because I pay attention to the story.
Mm,
Again, it is lighthearted, but I
yeah.
see the undertones, and there's a beauty in the simplicity, and there's a touchiness to it that I genuinely love. It's one reason why I like some of these the Gundam Build series, is because there's a kindness to it
Yeah.
that I think that a lot of things are missing. There's stuff that's plugged in there for adults. There's stuff that's plugged in for the tiny kids, but there is a kindness that I think that both audiences need to get, and
Yeah.
this encapsulates that really sweetly, in my opinion.
Mhm.
As far as the storytelling, there's the action, there's the comedy, there's the like, what are you doing?
Right.
This, like I said, it's not poetry in video games, but
Mm,
if you're willing to look at it, pan back, some of it cheesy, yeah. I enjoy the story. I think it's
yeah.
fun.
I think because the story is so lighthearted, it allows it allows me to engage with the characters in a way that I maybe couldn't with some of the other Gundam. Like,
Mhm.
I absolutely love the original Mobile Suit Gundam. They say your first one's always your favorite. And that's probably going to be true for me. uh, but so many of those experiences are born out of war and the horrors
Mm,
of war and the PTSD that comes from that. And that is something that me personally have not experienced.
sure.
So while I can relate to some of the ideas and some of the feelings that they discuss, I don't know what it's like to be on a battlefield. I don't know what it's
Yeah.
like to shoot at people and have people shoot at me. So there's a difficulty to relate to that with this more
Right.
lighthearted story where the focus isn't war but just social situations, making new friends, uh, trying to figure out what the pecking order is in a new group. Uh,
Mm.
Stuff that people have had to deal with, this is it almost feels like, and I'm gonna show my inexperience as a weeb here, but but those animes that are directed towards teens,
Yeah.
uh shonen
Shonen.
shonen. There's always like I'm rewatching My Hero Academia right now,
Oh, cool.
and one of the big parts of that series is Deku's finding out who he is with all of these people. He's making friends, which is kind of a new thing for him. He's relearning how he relates to Bakugo. Uh, and so the interpersonal relationships are a major part of that story. And
Right.
this feels like a Gundam where you can actually look at some of those interpersonal relationships in a way that is relatable. I
Yeah.
know what it's like to be the new guy
Mhm.
and to have that just one random overly friendly person that for whatever reason walks up and says, "Hey, guess what? You're my new best friend. Come on." And you know, and
You're my
that
friend
that that
now. Let's
yeah,
go
and
have
that that
tacos.
that awkwardness of I don't know you, dude, but also at the same time with the relief of, oh, thank God I'm not standing over here by myself now.
Right.
And then meeting people that you care about, like I can't remember her name. Is it Misha? The
Yeah, yeah.
black-haired girl whose family is very, very well to do.
Yeah, it's Sheena.
Sheena. I was completely wrong.
You have the right.
Sheena, who, I've had friends like that who feel an immense pressure to live up to their parents' expectations of what they're supposed to be. And so
Mhm.
that connected with me. But I was able to connect with these stories in a way that actually makes sense instead of, well, the reason they're having this heart to heart moment is because the ship is exploding around them.
Mm.
It's the normalcy of it. And the fact that some of these deeply emotional moments come out in the middle of a competition with you and I as fencers, we've had those moments where you have these deeply emotional moments that come from the result of a bout that didn't go your way, or
Yeah.
a judge's bad call, or you fence your hardest and you still didn't get the seed that you wanted.
Yeah.
Whatever the case may be, we
Mm.
it's just more relatable. And
Yeah.
so it's to not to speak ill of the war stories, because they are enjoyable and I enjoy them for what they are. But this is
Mhm.
something that I can relate to more easily, I think.
Yeah. And I think that if people are willing to, I think most people would be willing to relate to it. Um, yeah, it just hits differently. It's a different audience, I think, but it hits differently. And like you said, the other ones, I love Gundam for a reason, and the war stories hit me differently. I've never been at war. I've never done that. I was
Mhm.
what's the term worth it for it? F3, F9. It's wherever you're
4F.
not 4F. Yeah, that
4F,
was
yeah.
me.
Mhm.
I wasn't allowed to join the military. Like they're like, "Yep, you're broken." Yes, I am, sir. So my feet don't work. So, but um, but the trauma that people go through,
Mhm.
the having to grow up quickly, some of the stuff that does hit me a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And then, but seeing people go through that and having to navigate that's fascinating to me. This though, it's an entirely different animal, and again, I keep going back to this word. There's a sweetness to it
Yeah.
that I think we need more of.
Yeah.
We're in this age where we have this whole, oh, there's a new Joker movie coming out, and which, by the way, apparently it's from what I was told, was literally the producers going, "Oh, you guys like the Joker? Let's make something you don't like on purpose." Uh, I was like, "What?" Oh my
uh,
goodness! But
don't get me started on that soapbox.
yeah,
We're going to talk about Gundam today.
but there's a level of we're inundated with news stories and ticker tapes and TV shows that are just so it's not even realistic anymore. It's just
Mhm.
nihilism,
Yeah.
and we need stuff like this. And I
Mhm.
get it. There's a level of okay, look, I'm done with VeggieTales, but you know what I'm saying. But there is a level of man, you need something quiet your soul
Right.
sometimes, and this hit it for me.
Right.
So
Well, I
so
just think about that verse that talks about things that are good, things that are positive, things that are
mm,
uplifting. Focus on these things.
right.
Like you said, if I want a story where the heroes don't mind getting their hands dirty and the
Mm-hmm.
villains are sympathetic, and we really don't know where the line between right and wrong is, and everything is morally gray, and I walk away feeling from the story more confused about my morality than when I started. I mean, throw a dart, you'll hit a movie that has that. That's the in thing now, is
Sure.
anti-heroes, sympathetic villains, and morally gray. That's apparently what sells now. And I'm kind of burnt out over it. It was like, okay, yes, we get it. Good and bad sometimes intermingle. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like you said, I want something where the good guys are actually good and the bad guys are actually evil. And I feel good rooting for the good guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel good wanting the bad guy to fail.
Right.
It's like I said before, I deal enough with the real world when I'm living in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to take the time to be entertained, entertain me with something that helps me escape the real world.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know,
Definitely.
but
All right. Well, let's keep rocking and rolling there, man. So bottom line, we like the story. If you don't like it,
yes,
that's fine. And again, I get the complaints that some people have. Um, especially when if you're not in a fan of Gundam build divers. But I like it. So
Yes.
all right, next of category we have customization, gameplay, and diorama. I feel like we should do gameplay first before we get into customization.
Yes. Yes.
So the gameplay, the control systems. I have legitimately stopped playing certain games because it got too complicated to do everything.
Uh-huh.
There was too many moving mechanics, and then to get into the actual gameplay where you're actually doing stuff, it just became overly complicated. And that's not to say that this button map is not full. You hit
Right.
every button, and there's a
Yes.
lot of moving parts, but it wasn't difficult to pick up, in my opinion. What were your
Right.
thoughts on the gameplay?
Yeah. I actually very much appreciated that the left hand buttons controlled the left side and the
Mm-hmm.
right hand buttons controlled the right side. I liked
Yeah.
that there was a button you pushed to shoot the left gun and a
Mm-hmm.
separate button for the right gun. There was a
Right.
button you pushed to wield the left handed weapon and a button to
Mm-hmm.
push to wield the right handed weapon instead of these over hyper complicated combos where you press XXAB control slash downward barrel left pinky up start select alpha alpha beta Z cross, and it makes him do this super backflip combo move. And if you can't do all of that in the span of 1.3 seconds, you can't beat the game.
It's
What?
funny
What?
though that
I'm,
you
I'm
say
not
that.
bitter about Mortal Kombat. Stop saying that, Dallas.
It's funny you say that though. When you make reference to Mortal Kombat, only it's like I think in general people have gotten away from it, and games Street Fighter 6. I enjoy Street Fighter 6. It's one of the games that I have that I play every so often. Um, they actually have a new mapping system for the controls called Modern, and it gets away from that completely.
Oh, really?
The It's like now you still have to, like, okay, press these two buttons together, or you still have a couple
Yeah.
combinations you got to do, but
Mhm.
that's nowhere near as absolutely insane as some of the other ones that where it's like you got to push back and then roll forward and then hit
Right.
a certain button at the right time, which is a
Right.
legitimate thing you have to do with one of the characters.
Yeah.
And I mean, you make the joke about Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 2 is child's play compared to some of the later Street Fighter games that were out there.
Yeah.
I almost think about when I think about where that game was compared to Street Fighter 6 or some of the like Street Fighters. I think about the scene from what do you call it? Back to the Future, where he's in the future and they're
Uh-huh.
playing the shooting game. He's like, here,
Oh,
kid, let me
yeah.
show you. I'm like, you got to use your hands. Is this for
Right.
babies?
Yeah, this is stupid. You got to use your hands.
So that being
Oh,
said,
gosh.
this game it doesn't give me the feeling of, oh, this is so babying. They
Right.
don't baby you in it. You got to work for some stuff,
Mhm.
but it's not difficult to learn and get a rhythm. And that's the thing is,
Right.
I mean, we'll get into the customization later. If you build a rhythm, the gameplay is actually kind of fun to do.
Yeah. Well, the combo is chaining different moves together. Like
Mm-hmm.
like they have, depending on what weapon you have equipped. Uh like if you're doing a dual wield where you have a weapon in your right hand and a weapon in your left,
Mm-hmm.
doing right left right produces a different combination than right left.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find a combination that you like, what it is it's chaining different moves together
Right.
instead of press this right button combination and then they do the move.
Absolutely.
Uh,
And
so
and
so
then
th-
switching
that
back and forth between. Sorry, go on.
that's what I appreciated about it is it's not like there's this super finisher move that I've got to hit the right button combination.
Mm-hmm.
It's matter of fact, when you unlock that in the game, the awaken thing, it's just you press two buttons and boom, you have your supercharge.
Right.
But
But
even your
even then,
supercharge is something simple.
yeah, absolutely. But all the supercharges, it just kind of amps up your ability to do stuff. But the control system's not like it's not just hack and slash either. There's guns at play. Different guns do
Mhm.
different things, and then they have their own cooldown times. The power moves have their own requirements to be able to use them. And so there is a management system. It's not just blow everything up and go.
Right.
So when we were streaming, I did one of the modes. I did a bounty hunt mode, which bounty hunt mode, that was one of the things. There's 3 different modes. There's story mode, there's bounty hunt mode where you're actually facing off against the models of other characters, and then you have mission mode where it's like a mission and you do certain things. And so I did a bounty hunt, and there was this guy's Gunpla that, Branson, I promise you, it was as close to a biblical representation of an angel as you could get in this game.
Wow.
And it was insane. And then on top of that, this dude, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but he had this like techno line pattern painting on it that made it hard to look at.
Oh, dang.
In fact. And then, like, as I'm fighting the dadgum thing, all of a sudden there's a flash of light and there's this giant explosion. And my character is just flying. And it literally, Branson, half my life points are gone.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
what is happening here? And fortunately, and shout out to the home dude that came to our stream that day, because we had a guy who was just he was just looking for other Gundam Breaker players, and he goes, "Oh, that's the atomic bazooka, and you get it from this Gundam over here." And I was like, "Atomic what? We just have a bazooka. We're just lobbying nukes like a grenade. Go! That's what's happening in this game."
Oh my gosh.
So I get it. I'm like, let's do this. So I find the weapons, I equip them. I'm like, let's go. We load into a mission. Boom, boom, 2 shots gone. Just like the world just turns white. And I'm like, I just killed a first wave because things come in wave. I literally finished the first wave of enemies with 2 shots. And then I could not use those bazookas forever. At all. They were gone. I was waiting for them to recharge.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, and so then I go into the hack and slash. So there's some stuff. So you have a range, but like I developed a rhythm of, okay, I'm going to have either a machine gun or a blaster rifle or something like that. They have a handgun mixed with the swords and the other melee weapons. They actually have a melee option where it's just punching.
Yeah.
But all these things, and you develop a rhythm of back and forth, going through everything. And what I loved, and nobody has said this that I've seen, long-time listeners, my favorite Gundam game of all time is Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2. And I have a lot of love for that game, a lot of nostalgia for that game. My sister gave it to me for my birthday. 1 year. I have literally logged last time I was able to look at it, which was been a few years, because I lost the ability to plug my PS2 into the TV, which I might have a way to do it now, by the way. But I haven't checked yet, but I might. But I've logged a total of 1,000 hours in that game.
Wow.
But the gameplay, the way that you fight, the way you do things, reminds me a lot of Dynasty Warriors Gundam. Which, if those of you are aware with Dynasty Warriors, it is a hack and slash type of thing with objectives and stuff like that. And but the IP of Gundam was really special to me for obvious reasons. But they played with it because there were certain things, like if you had certain Gundams, you could do certain things. And in this game, depending on your build, this game becomes very, very fun, in my opinion. Now, the question becomes difficulty levels. Some people felt that it wasn't challenging, and just curious, how has the challenge level been for you as you've played through it?
Okay. Well, understand. My favorite aspect of this game is the customization, making new builds, trying out new builds, tweaking those ideas so I can make more builds, and then building dioramas. So having a challenging mission, I don't feel like I'm gypped in this game by having a mission that's easy to beat. I will say, I think there may have been one mission where I genuinely died and had to start over. But that was primarily because the build for the mission I was using, I was just leveling up my build, and I was automatically picking the most powerful everything.
Oh yeah.
And I had these two guns that were powerful guns, but what I didn't know is that to shoot them you have to stand still. You
Oh
can't
yeah.
strafe and shoot, or you can't move and shoot. If you're shooting the gun, you are stationary.
Right.
And that's what did me in, because my style is very much a, I'm strafing and shooting, spray and
Right.
play, or spray and pray, or whatever. Uh, I'm constantly in motion.
Right.
So having to stop and shoot it was a mishap for me.
Sure.
But outside of that, every mission I've played, I've beaten on the medium skill level.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm not that great at games, especially action games. So that
Mhm.
probably doesn't say much to the challenge of it. But for me, that's not a downside, because the part I enjoy most about it is taking all those pieces that I get and then going and doing the customization.
Right.
So having an easier mission isn't really, like, I'm a firm believer in, if I'm not having fun, it's not worth playing.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
don't have a problem playing a game on the easiest skill level just to make sure I'm having a good time.
Sure. I get
you
that.
know, uh, Now, obviously, if I get to where I'm knocking the missions out left and right, maybe I'll up the skill level just to see how I do.
Mhm.
But so I will say, on standard level, the missions have not seemed that challenging. But for me,
Right.
that's not a knock. That just means I get more customization parts, and I can go play around with customization more.
Exactly. Exactly. When I first started playing the game, I realized there were three modes of difficulty. There was easy, regular, and then hardcore.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Let me play around, because I'm experimenting with the game. I want to see what it's like. So the first four chapters, I played all three versions um, of those modes,
Mhm.
and the hard mode was genuinely difficult, and um, the as for the difficulty level, I think it's more in the how well they can take a hit and how much of a hit they give. I think that's a
Yeah.
lot more of it. It's not that they've added
Mhm.
more tactics to it. The AI is not suddenly like, doing crazy things, but it's definitely
Right.
difficult. I think I felt like there were times where I was swarmed a lot more though.
Uh-huh.
In that there may be more sprites on the map going at it. Um, but it did become challenging. Um, and then down the road, I unlocked extreme. I was like, oh wow, extreme. I was
Yeah.
like, well, let's try it. So I go back to chapter 2 and I died. Like I
Really?
flat out died. I was like, this is extreme. And then somebody in my stream the other day, he was like, "Oh, when you beat the game, you unlock new type, which is even harder." I was
Oh
like, "You do
gosh.
what?" And the thing about it is the higher the difficulty, the not you get higher level parts out of that. And so
Yeah.
I'd accidentally, because the way I played, I accidentally OP'd myself for the first two chapters. Like I was
Uh,
way too strong for it. Until I got to a point higher up where some things happened, and I tried to do it in hardcore mode on one in Branson. Oh my gosh. I was doing a boss fight with the Gundam Unicorn and I think the RX-78 together. And
mhm.
it took me 30 minutes to
Wow.
fight these. 30 straight minutes. I was sweating bullets. And
Yeah.
fortunately, the team I had with me, I had Tao and Lynn, and they're a lot better than some of the other characters you have with you, because some of the modes you take missions, and you can bring one of the companions with you.
Uh-huh.
I'm still trying to figure out which ones do which, but they're a lot better at coming and reviving you.
Uh-huh.
And I would not have survived if they had not come revive me,
Wow.
at all. And so the gameplay difficulty, it does ratchet up when you use that. And I think for people who are like, man, I just want more of a challenge, do that.
Yeah.
Go play extreme, because holy crap, it gets wild, guys. But also, like, and here's the deal: like, the higher the level is, you get experience points, because this is another thing that adds into the game for you. And this is a good segue for us. the more experience points you get, your builder status goes up. When you hit certain levels, new things unlock for you to do.
Mm.
New color palettes, new dioramas that are just given to you because you're at a higher level, which is a good way for us to segue into another main part of this game, which is customization of these Gundams. That has been
Yes.
a key mechanic. Because again, relating back to those who like Gunpla, the ability to build the ones that we love from the show has always been a great thing. But there's a subculture of kit bashing and building up these things and
Mhm.
creating these monstrosities, or this like, man, I would love for it to be this. And then I mean, again, yes, you have these cursed builds where you're like, why are you doing this? Like there's this one build and it's like there, I forgot her name, but it's like it's a Gundam that looks like a woman, and it's
Oh
her
yeah.
beautiful face, and it's on this big bulky Zagat. And you're like, what? like what is happening here? It's like,
Nightmare
beware
fuel.
Bertha. So there's this customization. And again, the higher your level is, the more stuff you unlock, and certain things. So, but the customization level, Branson, how has that been for customizing? Not just the looks, but we'll get to Battle Texas here in a while, but the
Yeah.
looks of it. How's that been for you?
It's been one of my favorite parts. Uh,
Yeah,
I found a color scheme that I really really like,
yeah,
and so every time I made a new build, I would use that color scheme. Uh, and that's half the fun. Is once I find a piece that I like the special abilities for, and
hmm
I like the level that it is, and the OP abilities and the EX abilities that it gives me, going into paint mode and figuring out, okay, I've got my color scheme that I like. How do I apply that color scheme to where it looks cool? You
right.
know, and then the ability to scale your different body parts to make it look right. Like I had one build where I actually used the tall geese head,
Oh yeah,
but for whatever reason, the head looked really really tiny on based on the other parts that I built. It was like, you've got this massive build and you've got little bitty head. And I was like, man, I really wish the tall geese, I really wish that I could make that bigger. And then I found that setting and I was like, oh, I can make it bigger. Then I
right.
was able to adjust it and make it exactly the size that I wanted.
hmm
And and I will spend more time making my Gundam look just perfect than I will actually playing the mission once I get the Gundam designed. Uh, but the other thing is a lot of the parts that I use are rarely symmetrical. Like
hmm
it is rare for my right arm to be exactly like my left arm. Like they're
Right,
usually from two different Gundam builds. But
right,
with the customization of the colors, I can tweak those colors to where they still look like they're one coherent piece.
right.
And then you have the builder parts, which are the extra parts that you could add on that kind of balance it out. Like one of my builds has the uh, double barrel blasters under the
hmm
shield,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Gatling guns.
so what I was able to do was add like a shield armor thing on the other shoulder, on the right shoulder,
hmm
to balance it out to make it look a little more symmetrical. And and then like with the tall geese, actually I took off the Roman feather thing and
Right.
put this tail fin on
Mm.
that comes off of it. So it's the tall geese's face, but it has this tail fin that makes it look a little more aerodynamic.
hmm
And I mean, I lose myself. I lose myself going and making all of these different designs and color schemes, and it it is as much fun, if not more fun, than playing the mission itself. And then going in and finding all the different poses, and then some of the poses are actually animations, so you
hmm
can choose the perfect moment of the pose. And I just it's honestly, it's like I'm 6 years old and I've got a bunch of action figures in front of me again.
Oh, I can
That's
see
what it
that.
feels like. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. The customization of that, just the aesthetics and everything out, it is really beautiful. But it's also like the reason why you have parts are like, well, why is this so much smaller than the other ones? It's because the way that they're built in game is accurate to what you're getting. So there is a within the world of Gundam, there is like official documentation about, okay, this build is this tall, or this Gundam's actually this tall. This mobile suit is this. This mobile armor, which is a whole other class, is this, and all this stuff. And so then you have different ratios. So like I'm looking at one Gundam. I have a box down here for an RX-78. It is a 1:144 ratio for how big it really is in real life. And of course, the crazier the numbers, the bigger those Gunplas get. They did the
Right.
same thing in the game, and because so there's a store in game which you use in-store credit or game money. This is not a play to. You don't have to spend more money to get what you need to in this game.
Right.
And you literally go to the store though in game, and you buy a Gunpla box, and it has all the parts, the paint, the weapons, all that stuff for that Gundam. So if there's one that you're like, man, I really want this. This is what I did the other day when for the bazooka. I went found out this one, pulled it, and I built it. I grabbed the pieces I want out of it. But they're all according to the size. So some of those boxes, they're 1:144s, they're 125s, they're all kinds of stuff. So that's the reason why when you build it, the heads are small, they're big or like that. So that customization to be able to size things, it helps you to balance things out. And then you get creative with some stuff. So like there's this thing called SD Gundam, super deformed. They're normally tiny little chibi things. They're fun little like 5-minute kits.
Yeah.
But they're cute. And there's some more like dynamic ones that I didn't know about. I just saw them the other day. They're interesting. But I took one of them, I took a visor and I put it on top of my my Gundam. And the visor though, it was massive. Like because they deform everything, it's just humongous. And I was able to
Right.
size it down so it looks like a really cool, almost Anubis looking mask on top of my
Oh,
Gundam.
nice.
And I was gonna send it to you, but the PSN network is down right now globally as we speak,
Oh
and so
boy.
I can't send it to you. But you can do those sort of things. And the colorization, what you were mentioning, when Brenton says you can color everything, we mean every panel
Yes.
can be adjusted. So there's this thing in there in building Gunpla called panel lining, where you take a Gundam marker and you go into the lines of the crevices of the Gundam, and you line those with ink to make parts pop, to make parts look differently. And you can actually adjust the panel lining with every single of these Gunpla that you have. You can make them so they're metal and it's glowing. All kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just absolutely insane the customization in this. And this is a marker that comes from New Gundam Breaker, from my understanding. It was probably the only thing people liked about New Gundam Breaker was the customization that you could have in it, and it is so intense to the point like there's some parts like you could adjust things, not just like the size, but the angle, how you want to stand on a character, how you don't want to stand, if you want to be somewhere else. The one that I told you about, that it was like it looked like the dadgum angels from the Bible. They had taken other parts and they had flipped them upside down to create the form they wanted to
Oh,
make this character
nice.
work. And so the customization is absolutely insane. What's beautiful is as you play the game, you make friends in game. You can actually go to their character cards and you can see their Gunpla that they have at the moment, and you can actually see the list of parts that they used to
Oh,
build that out.
nice.
And
I
so
didn't know
there you could,
that.
yeah, I just learned this the other day while I was streaming.
Oh,
And so I mean, there's so much to it. And they're like, we know people are gonna ask questions. Let's make it so they can figure it out quickly.
nice.
I mean, they really put a lot of thought into that aspect of the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
Now, the downside is the crossplay isn't there. My hope is that there will be crossplay later. That's because it's so good. It did so well on launch that they released two new, a couple of freebies day of, because they're like, wow, you guys love this. Bet, here you go. So now the customization is not just cosmetic, but there's tactics. You got to be mindful about what you're adding on to your build according to your play style. I'm locked in kind of at the moment with a scythe and a sword. I don't know what to call it anymore. My brain just it's a lightsaber, but it's not.
Beam saber.
Beam saber, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty locked into it. I'm playing around with the guns right now. Right now, I got the twin blasters from the Proto Wing Zero right now, and I'm thinking I'm liking it. But each part isn't just a matter of like, oh, it's a gun, but like each part also has a list of abilities it adds, so it could actually
Mhm.
increase your speed or increase the drop rate or increase your recovery time, a plethora of things. Every single piece does adds to it. At the same time, there's this thing called synthesization where you are actually able to upgrade by combining other pieces into it.
Mhm.
And when you do that, you can upgrade its rating. So you have like 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, goes up to 4 and 5 star. Well, the more stars it has, the more items you can add to it. So while you're synthesizing, you can be like, well, I got 4 gaps open, so let me find something that adds a little bit more speed, or let me find something that does this. And then what's cool is if you are say that you have one that says that it gives you a higher drop rate level 4. Okay.
Mhm.
Drop rate level 4, I think is what it would say. And you're going through your list of parts that you're going to synthesize into it. And you find one that says drop rate level 5. It just adds that into it automatically. When you add that,
Nice.
it doesn't eat up another place. It stacks those abilities.
It assumes
And
you want to upgrade that level.
exactly. So you really have to like you can go deep with thinking through what do I want this to do? Because in the world of build a breaker, there's this conversation about man, you really know how to make your parts work together and all this sort of stuff. They took that conversation and they make that happen in this game where you have to think hard and fast. What do
Mhm.
my parts do? You and I
Right.
could have a build that looks exactly the exact same named parts, but because of the
Mhm.
abilities I've done in mine, you could just blow me out of water, Branson, because yours is done better.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of conversation
Yeah.
about tactics and what you want to do and gameplay style. You wanted to mention the weapons. There's
Yeah.
so many different weapon types.
Right.
So where are you landing right now with your weapon types between swords and our melee weapons and uh,
Uh,
fire armor?
I've got a beam saber combined with a I think it's a heat axe. Was it a
Mm-hmm.
heat axe? I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but for one of my builder parts, I also have an anti-ship sword.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So one of my OP abilities is to I just grab that thing off my back and slam and go to town.
Nice.
Uh, I've got missile launchers on my thighs that have been there for at least 3 different builds right now. I find I really like those because they'll target multiple enemies. So if
Mm-hmm.
I have a whole wave coming at me, I can fire those things off, and depending on the power level of the enemy, it'll knock them all down. It's
Right.
usually a quick, easy 2 or 3 breaks. You know, when I'm trying to up my break limit to get the S rank, I
Right.
can normally fire those off, and I'll get at least 2 breaks just off of that alone.
Nice.
Uh, I definitely I switch between my pattern, my rhythm is when they're coming at me, I hit them with all the long range stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
while they're laying on the ground, I'll run over, pull out my melee weapons, and start going to town on them that way.
Right.
And then if I get one backed up against a wall, that's when I'll get out my anti-ship sword and just kind of waylay on them because they can't go anywhere. They're kind of stuck there.
Right.
Uh, I do have an EX ability where the beam saber becomes a like a Darth Maul beam saber, and he kind of does the spinning thing. Uh, so I've gotten to where I like that, and I use the cloak. And
Oh
what I
yeah.
like about the cloak is that its usage is automatic. You don't have to press a
Mm-hmm.
button to turn it on. While
Mm-hmm.
you've got it equipped, it automatically repels beam fire up to
Mm-hmm.
a certain damage rating.
And
So,
that should be pointed out. Part of the whole thing of you thinking through some stuff here is the fact that there's not just one type of hit that you get. There's actual like physical attacks and
mhm,
there's beam attacks, and so you have to think through that because some characters they all they do is beam attacks. Some
Mhm.
are physical attacks. Some can handle ones and others. And
Right.
so while you're building, you have to think through some stuff. Like the fact that you have a beam saber and a heat axe is actually really great thinking, because the heat axe is technically a physical thing. That's one of the things I'm
Right.
actually struggling with my scythe, is it's technically beam damage, and so is my beam saber.
Mhm. Yeah. There was also a knife that I was using that was pretty useful, but I think the heat axe actually technically did more damage, so I switched to it
Mm-hmm.
because it was a higher rarity.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but as far as the guns, I don't know. I don't even remember the type of guns I've used. It's been the same kind for like the past 4 or 5 builds. I
Right.
just kind of it's one of those. It's a beam rifle, but if you hold the trigger, it shoots a continuous beam
Yeah, yeah.
instead of just a semi-automatic firing. If you hold down the gun, it does a continuous beam. Now you run out faster, so you got to let it recharge.
Mm-hmm.
But especially when I'm fighting bosses, if I really want to hit somebody with a hard hit, I can
Mm-hmm.
hold it down and it'll hit it and do a lot of damage in a burst. And then
Right.
while it's recharging, I run in with my melee weapons
Nice.
and go to town.
I like it.
Um, yeah. So
I
that's
saw.
kind of my style is I'll hit them with a long range, and then while they're on the ground recuperating, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go over and technically I have an ability where I can throw my shield,
Oh.
like Captain America,
Mm-hmm.
and I
You
thought
would.
I would really enjoy that, but I don't use it that much.
Oh yeah.
So the past couple of times I've played, I wonder if I should trade that out because I don't use it nearly as much as I thought I would.
Yeah. I've done the same thing with several abilities as I played through. Also, going, man, this is a cool thing, but I just wouldn't use it. I had this one that was it was like an extra, like you're in, and it's just a quick melee attack. It was an OP, not an XP attack, and it just wasn't worth it to me. I barely tapped that button. I was like, you know what?
Yeah,
Let's get rid of it.
yeah.
So, uh, as far as my gameplay style, I some of the same similar stuff. But what I do is, I have a couple. I have an EX that is a continuous like cannon fire, just right
Mm,
straight through. So what I'll do is similar to what you do, but I try to. I have my thrusters set up so that I'm pretty fast, and so I will try to, for lack of a better term, line everybody up
uh-huh.
and then shoot. So I can
Ah,
hit as many people as possible. A lot of my attacks are the ways I do my gameplay is hitting as many people at the same time as I can. So I'll
uh-huh.
line up, shoot. I have an attack where I will actually I'll spin and fly forward, and you'll hit characters at the same time, which is great when you put them in a wall situation, and then you
Right.
do that because they just can't move. They're stun locked, and you
Yeah.
get a lot of good breaks out of that. And then I will do a lot of shooting to basically stun like a character, get in, slash attack with my weapons, come back out, and again just stun lock, get in, get out, back and forth like that. That's been a lot of
Yeah.
what I've done with my gameplay.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. Pushing them up against the wall is actually very, very useful because they
Hmm.
don't go anywhere. They just stay there.
Yeah,
And that's where I rack up a lot of my breaks.
yeah.
Uh, especially if we're like in an outside arena and there's a big
Hmm.
rock, like a
Oh yeah.
edifice or something. You just push them
Hmm.
up against that, they just go to town.
Oh yeah. Definitely, definitely. All right, so far, guys, we talked about the story, the gameplay. We talked about the customization, the depth of the customization. Guys, we could talk about this for a long time because there's just so much there that you can do, and not even we haven't got into the whole aspect of like of trying to build something just really do. I sent Branson a picture the other day of something I found on Reddit. Somebody literally built Link, something we were joking about. Somebody
Yeah.
built Link from Zelda in this,
And
and
it
it's
looks
just been really
impressive
cool.
too. Like
I saw a
the color scheme on the shield, it makes it look like a Hyrule shield.
yeah,
Like it
it
was
was
really
it was
good.
pretty cool. I saw another post on Reddit. Somebody had literally made various ultimate Digimon forms in the game.
Nice.
I mean, I was like, the create, and this again. If you were a creative person and you want to tinker and have fun with stuff, this is the game for you because you will lose your mind doing
All
it.
right,
But while we're
Dallas.
talking about customization, there's a level of customization, and this is something that's part of. This is what I love about it. Every aspect of this game has been targeting a different aspect of the Gundam franchise fan base. You have the story, which again is very much based in the Gundam builder lore type of situation. You have the customization, which again, if you're a Gunpla fan, you like customizing, it's what it is. And but then you have the dioramas. There is a world diorama tournament. And I'm telling you guys, what these people build, these dioramas in real life is spectacular. Sometimes they're built to emulate scenes from the movie or from the shows, and it is amazing the detail they do. Sometimes it's these really dramatic moments. Sometimes it's super somber or sweet. There was this one I saw was really interesting where they had a Gundam. I think it might have been a gym, and it's like they've literally made battle damage on it. Like they've burned some of the plastic and they've painted certain things to make it look like it's been damaged, and they made it look like it's sitting in a field that has grown up around them,
Wow.
and so it's becoming part of the landscape. And I mean, again, amazing stuff. And while you don't necessarily have some of that available to you with the diorama stuff, Branson, how has the dioramas been for you?
Oh my gosh. So to give you a little bit of background, I've said before that if Jesus doesn't come back and I actually make retirement, one of the things I want to spend my time doing is building dioramas. Like I always thought it would be cool to have like a castle scene where the medieval armies besieging a castle and you have archers up on the towers shooting archers down and catapults throwing rocks
Right.
and stuff like that. Or have a knight fighting against a giant dragon and the dragon's breathing fire. Uh, I've seen uh, guys on YouTube who will take D&D adventures from Baldur's Gate
Oh
and
yeah.
create dioramas of some of the dungeons that you run around in. One guy in particular took one of the dungeons from the adventure, and I think it was in Baldur's Gate,
Oh yeah.
and made a diorama where if you have D&D miniatures, you could actually go through and do the dungeon. Like it had the rooms to scale and everything. And
Wow.
I just always thought that was cool. So this game has that ability where when you unlock stuff, you can build these dioramas, and it's just really, really cool because your only limit is your imagination. I
Right.
mean, anything you can imagine, if you've got those specific Gundams unlocked, you could do it. And the first one that really sparked it was one of the builds I have had a physical great sword instead of a beam saber. It had a physical sword,
Hmm.
and so I picked a space field and positioned the gunpla in such a way that he was swinging his sword down pretty heavy, and I got a Zaku suit from the original Mobile Suit Gundam and
Hmm.
positioned to where he was kind of flown back like he got hit. And then there were these things where I could add cuts to the Zaku suit, and then I was able to add bullet holes to the shield of the Gundam, and then I was able to add like special effects. There, I could create a light source to where there was this flash of light when the blade connects, and I was like, and all of that was cool, and I was able to do all these amazing things. And then I got to the very end of the customization, and then I saw a button that said camera mode, and I thought, "Huh, what's camera mode?" And then you open that up, and then for all of the customization that you could do to pick the right gunpla, to put it in the right position, to give it the right weapons and the right lighting and the right position and all that, then you open up camera mode, and it has things like focus, exposure, vignette effects, color
Mm.
tones, all the normal photography stuff that you could do. So I was able to take that and then like have the picture focus on it to where the focus is on the Gundam swinging the sword down, and the Zaku suit is blurred, so it looks like he's, in motion, like he's moving back. And I know I spent 2 hours trying to get that thing just perfect. And when I was finished with it, I just sat there and looked at it and was like, "Oh my gosh, that is so much fun." And so I mean, I know we've poked fun at how much I've enjoyed it in this thing, but it really is like I will hurry myself through missions to unlock customization parts so I could go build more Gunpla,
Right.
get more dioramas. The latest one I did was one where the RX-78 is kind of crouching in a cave, injured, and Zaku suits are attacking, and a ground type Gundam is jumping off the ground and shooting a laser at the
Wow.
Zaku suit, and the Zaku's like flying back and just arranging that and then trying to find the perfect angle to capture the shot. It it's fun, and what's cool though is that because it's all digital, you're able to play around and do with stuff that maybe you couldn't do
Mm,
in a real diorama. Like if I
right.
wanted to have a Zaku suit suspended in the air, I would have to find wiring and find a creative way to make him just sit there and float. But because this is
Right.
all just point and click, I could be like, you know what, I want to just hang there.
Right.
And that, I mean, I think for me that is the coolest thing of this game. I mean, the story's fun, yes.
Yeah.
Gameplay is not overly complicated. It's complicated enough to where I feel like it's a fresh fight every time. It's not just press A as many times as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Customization is certainly fun because it gets the creative side flowing, but the diorama section it has confirmed for me that when I retire, making dioramas is going to be fun because I'm able to play around with it now.
Yeah.
And it is
That's cool.
by far my favorite aspect of this game. That aspect alone is worth the money spent. Even if you
My
don't
man.
even play the story, just being
Right.
able to do that to me is the best part of it.
This is what I'm loving about the game, is the fact that there are so many elements in the game, and they've really thought about it's the Gundam fan base, but it's the subsect of the Gunpla fan base, and they've thought about all the elements that come together. The fantasy of building something and then fighting it. They've joked about this for years. They've had different. There was a whole short of shows that they did, and it was like 2 minute bits they put on YouTube once, where it was like people doing this, where like they've built Gunpla and then they put it in a simulator, and then there's like this giant, almost Yu-Gi-Oh battlefield, and they're fighting at it, like go, and all these things, and then they have the customization to just, man, be creative and build whatever you want to build, down to this diorama aspect of it.
Mhm.
They really have taken the Gunpla community, and this is built for them specifically, in my opinion.
Yeah. And what's really cool is if you make your own build and you create a blueprint for it, you can
Mhm.
import that build into the diorama.
Yeah.
So like the guy who designed the Link
Mhm.
Gundam, in his game, he can have the Link Gundam fighting a Zaku suit or something like that. So
Yeah.
if you pour all that creativity into designing the perfect Gundam, then you can incorporate it into your diorama and have it fighting stuff.
I'm trying to think of how you would do a Ganondorf. And I'm thinking you would take at least a Sazabi base form, and that would give you the armored Ganondorf,
Mhm.
and you get to do the painting be completely different. But yeah, man, yeah. But this is what I'm talking about the game, like the
Right.
creativity, the way you could think through stuff and have fun. It's a fun game, guys, like legitimately. And again, there are aspects of the story that I love, but it's because of who I am as an individual. That's the storytelling I like, the creativity. Now, where does it lack? If you are not a Gunpla fan, but you are the world of Gundam, you're gonna miss on some stuff. This is why Gundam Breaker, not gonna, or Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2 is so high for me, because it has taken all of the worlds and put them together, and it's this really interesting space you have. Like there was a weird moment where I have Hero Yui, and who pilots the Zero suit, and I have the option to turn him into a new type, a cyber new type.
Oh,
And like there's this whole conflict conversation about him becoming a cyber new type. But if I do it, then I can have him fly certain Gundams that only cyber new types could fly. And so
ah,
there's this whole thing of like, man, what do I do? How do I not do it? But that's
mhm,
on that world right there. This is not that. This is squarely based in the Builder universe. And if you are
uh,
not familiar with the Builder universe, if so interest, you may struggle with this game a little bit for some of it, but I think that there's enough to it that if you're willing to see past the I want to get in there and do missions and shoot stuff, but see the grander scape of it, I think you'll like the game.
yeah, for sure, absolutely. I have to remind myself to play missions every once in a while so that I can actually go and unlock stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the
like
thing is,
I'll
like the further into the game you get, you see, like if you see a suit in game in mission mode, their box is available in the store.
nice. Yeah, there was the last diorama I did was because of a box I bought in the store. It was
Hmm.
the secret base one,
Hmm.
and it has like a base up on top of a hill in a jungle, but then it has a
Yeah.
cave underneath, and that was the base I did on it. But yeah, that's what I'll spend most of my stuff on. I'll be like, okay, new Gundam part, new profile pic, diorama.
Oh, I love it. I love it. All right. Well, any final thoughts on it, Branson, before we give our final rating?
Oh gosh. I I was going to wait to buy the game until later, but circumstances were such that I had some extra money I didn't know I was gonna have.
Mm-hmm.
And I spoke with my wife and I'm like, is it being irresponsible if we have the extra money for me to go ahead and get this? Because I'm really curious about it. And because she loves me, she was like, no, if we're not hurting, go ahead, spend the money. And what I now realize is that she was actually being very smart because I made one time purchase and now I have enough stuff to play with to satisfy me for years. Instead of buying all the physical stuff to do this, I can now do it on my PS4.
Yeah.
So it's
Because
probably ended up
Gunpla
being
gets,
cheaper in the long run. But
yeah. Yeah.
it's just good fun. And I think you've pointed out this before. You get out of it what you put into it.
Yeah.
If you want something that's high challenge, high stress, you can make it that and get it out of
Yeah.
that. But if you want something where you can just kind of kick your feet back and relax for a few hours,
Mm-hmm.
you could do this too. You know, to where the frustration of darn it, I hit the wrong button is I backed out of the menu too quickly and not oops, I didn't shoot the gun. You know?
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Uh I'm gonna disagree with everything you're saying there, man. Because again, it's fun. We've said this across the board. I can definitely recommend this for certain folks. Again, if you have no connection to Gundam, you're gonna be a little lost in things. You're not gonna get the joy of like, oh my gosh, this is this. Like I was excited because I got parts from the F91.
Mhm.
Which by the way, for those of you who are into F91, are we have one of our sister podcasts, the Gundam or the Bottom Shelf, we're actually reviewed that recently, and it should be out there in your feeds also if you want to hear our views on that. But there are so many just different aspects that it's just fun. And like I said, there's hours of content if you're willing to get into it and do it. And also, it is cheaper than real Gunpla. Um,
Yes.
you know, the basic high grades, they're pretty reasonable. They're reasonable. You can get a pick up a high grade for like $15 to $30, but then you get into stuff like there's an RX-78 version 3 on Amazon right now. It's a master grade, which is a 1/100 scale.
Ooh.
So it's a big boy.
Yeah.
It's like $50. Uh, and it just
Well,
I've seen kits guys go, they go for like a couple $100 just
yeah.
because of
Well, that's the other
what
thing is
they
storage
were.
space. If you design something in the game, you store it in the game.
Yeah.
You don't have to find shelf space for it
Nope.
or wall
Not all.
space or whatever.
Man, there's a Bandai 1/100 Master Grade Heavy Arms Endless Waltz Edition for $103.
Ooh.
There is a Bandai Hobby Strike, or Bandai Hobby Strike Freedom from Gundam Seed. Strike Freedom Gundam Extra Finish Version 1/100 Master Grade, $145.
Ooh. Or for $60, you could buy the game.
Now, I will say something. There is one aspect about the game that is missing for me as a person who enjoys Gunpla. And again, it's this is the time and the space for it. But there is something about spending the day putting the pieces together
Mm.
to taking the nippers, checking them out of the runners, sanding off the nubs, putting things back together, making sure the lines are straight, panel lining, creating stuff. And then there's some stuff. There's this new trend in Gunpla that I hope that they find a way to make it work in this game. It may ruin the game, honestly, but it's so cool. There is a way that people are painting the Gunpla
Oh.
that no matter how you look at it, it looks like a flat image.
Whoa.
It looks like it's out of the manga.
Wow.
It is beautiful. And I've seen so many posts of people throwing away their Gundams, their cheapos, because they're doing it wrong. But
Oh my gosh.
but it is absolutely amazing how some of these guys are painting up these Gunplas to look like that. And I don't know how they would incorporate that into the game, but either way, guys, I think for Branson and I, we can strongly say that we recommend the game
Yes.
and have fun with it. Like just have fun with it, ladies and gentlemen. There's a lot of different elements to it. Again, don't go into this thinking this is not going to be a massive triple A battle game where you're sweating bullets, and this is not
Right.
going to be the next Helldivers 2 or Warhammer or anything like that.
Yeah.
But guys, it's exciting to play, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of good stuff to it. So, all right, well, ladies and gentlemen, want to hear from you guys on that. Reach out to us. Look for the Gundam Watch on um can't say words, Dallas. Instagram, Facebook. Check out Geek Devotions. But ladies and gentlemen, now it is time for the maintenance report.
Cruise maintenance reports now loading in 3, 2, 1.
All right, guys, welcome to the maintenance report. This is the portion of the show where we take what we've discussed about all things Gundam, whether it be a TV series or a manga or, in this case, a video game, and we use it to springboard a spiritual discussion. So, Dallas, why don't we start with you? What have you got for us today?
Yeah, I'm looking at, because again, if you pay attention to the story, you don't skip it. There's some sweet moments that take place within it, but one of the things that take place is there's a character, he's a mentor figure named Mister, and he pulls your character to the side and he's talking to him, and he's thanking you for doing something you didn't realize you were doing. You're just being kind to Lynn.
Yeah.
I go back to that because that really hit me. That whole thing hit me, but it was a matter of like your character is not trying to make a scene. He's not just doing stuff. He's just being genuine. He's just being kind. And in an interesting way, it reminds me of a particular verse. Matthew chapter 6, verses 1-4. Jesus is speaking. He says this: beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, but they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received the reward. But When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what the right hand is doing, so that your giving may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And this is talking. There's a lot happening here, and unfortunately, culturally, the leaders in the religious area, they made spectacles out of things all the time. And Jesus, he hounds on them a lot about the spectacle that people were making, not out of a they weren't making spectacles out of things from a genuine heart, but just from a genuine I want to be seen type of situation. There's stories of the rabbis, and there's you see the talit that they wear, and there's I think it's in the midrash. It talks about how there's this idea: the longer the tassels on it, the more humble they are. And there's stories of old rabbis whose tassels were so long they would literally drag in the dirt as they walked, because it was like, look how humble I am, type of situation. And
I
so
am the
Jesus is
most
combating
humble
that.
man in the world.
And this isn't to say, like, I know people get flack for, they do this video like, oh, I helped so and so do this, or talking. There's a level of like, hey, sharing your life, trying to inspire, trying to encourage people, but what's the motive? What's the motive of you sharing these things so publicly? Is it to go, look how great I am? I am an amazing individual. I am so humble. Or is it to inspire other people? And I think there's some people, I'll put this out there. There's some people who started off to do that, and along the road, it became more about them than inspiration.
Yeah.
That being said, this whole idea of giving and stuff like that, if I can pull back from the immediate text of talking about giving of finances, which is a thing, but just giving your time, caring for people. Not everything has to be there. Doesn't have to be a motive for helping somebody. James is scolding an early church because in his book, because they're doing that. They're like, oh, we're going to be friends with that person because they have money and power. Just be a decent human being is a lot of what James is saying. Just be nice. Just care about people.
Yeah.
And again, going back to this passage here, Jesus is saying, look, God's going to reward you for your faithfulness in your giving. And if you are being genuine and caring about people, they will see that.
Yeah.
And they will honor that. I was recording an episode of the Midweek Move today, and we were talking about some of the conversation about humbleness, and there was an interesting phrase that came about, which was, everything's got to be about Jesus, and I'm okay with people forgetting my name.
Yeah.
I want them to remember Christ through me, not me.
Amen.
Or remember what God did through my life, not me. And that means it's about the people. It's about honoring the Lord with what we do. And in the game, you're just being a decent human being. You're just showing love for a teammate, helping them. You have no idea what they're going through. And then Meister comes along and he's like, "Hey, this is the situation." And at first, it's kind of like this whole like you kind of get the feeling that he's like going, "Hey, do this," but he's actually stopping. He goes, "Hey, I want you to know what you don't realize is you have changed her life by simply being present, by being kind." And so my weak connection for you guys is just be kind, just be good to people.
Yeah.
And now I'm not saying sacrifice your morals, the scriptures, the righteousness of God. That's not at all what we're saying. But you can stand on those things and not be a jerk. You can genuinely love people where they're at. We are not the convictor. We are not the savior. Holy Spirit and God, Jesus do all that. But we are tools in their hands to point them back to his loving grace.
Amen. Amen. My maintenance report actually is along similar lines. I was reflecting on what we were saying earlier about the interrelationship between all the different clan members and how they
Mhm.
relate to each other. And on more than one occasion, especially when they focus on one particular team member and start to explain more of the backstory, on more than one occasion, there's a situation where they're lost in their thoughts and a wave of attackers comes and that particular character is in danger, and another character steps in and saves them and rescues them from being shot up or destroyed or that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really, really emphasizes the importance of teamwork and the importance of community and working together.
Right.
And that reminds me of this verse, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12. And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. Basically,
Word.
it's the idea that when you have community, when you have a group of people that are with you, you become that much more difficult to overcome. You become that much more difficult to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in today's focus on individuality and this idea of I am unique and I am only me and just me, and there's not another me out there like me, and I'm the only me who has ever me in this entire me world. While that may be true, I think we do ourselves a disservice to not focus on the importance of a group dynamic, to focus on the importance of gathering together. This is why Paul tells the early church, don't forsake the gathering. It was less about making sure that your butts in a pew on Sunday morning to sing the right songs and listen to the sermon and give your praise to God, because the people who say, I can praise God anywhere I go, that's right. You can. You can praise God no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing.
Right.
But you cannot have community no matter where you go, no matter what you're doing. Community that is where it's almost like we get our batteries recharged. We are with people who encourage us and spur us on and help us and give us the strength we need to combat the things that we have to combat through the week.
Right.
We see this a lot in Gundam Breaker 4's story missions, where there's always somebody who has this thing they have to overcome, whether it's a bully or life circumstances or just self-doubt, whatever the case is. And it's always working with friends that helps them come out of that. And that's biblical. That's the way God designed it. God designed us for community. I mean, when he looked at Adam in the Garden of Eden, he said it's not good for man to be alone. That's more than just the romantic aspect of it. He made us to be communal creatures. He wanted us to have families and friends and groups to be in, to gather with together. Jesus himself had 12 guys that followed him around that were his go-to guys, And so I think that's important as we walk out our Christian life. A former pastor used to always say there's no such thing as a Lone Ranger Christian. We're not meant to do this life apart. We're meant to do it with people. We're meant to do it in community.
Right.
And I see that concept really played up in the game. And then I think that's a concept that is throughout Scripture and one that we would do well to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could add just a small tidbit into the whole aspect about the whole community aspect, and I say this with all the love in the world, most of the people here who say that, they're not going to church at all. And if they go to church, they're in, they're out, and they never talk about actual life issues with people.
Right.
They're like, I have my community. Who is spiritually mature is in your life to ask hard questions? Who in your life is spiritually mature that knows you? That goes, hey, are you all right? You seem down today. What's going on? If you don't have that, you don't really have community.
Right.
And I really want to encourage you, like Wilbert said, get community.
Yeah.
Get plugged in at a local church and be part of it. Let people in your life and let them walk through stuff with you.
Amen.
Cool beans. All right, man. Well, I think we're at the end of the show.
All righty. Does this mean I get to go do more dioramas now?
I mean, yeah. But you have to promise to bathe, okay? Manny's really tired of it. Okay. And your boys are starting to wonder if you're their father or the dog.
Okay. I'll set a reminder. Every 3 days I will bathe whether I need to or not.
Oh, Lord Jesus, help us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to encourage you to interact with us. Visit us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just look for the Gundam Watch. And don't forget to also check out our backlog of stuff and check out the Gundam Devoted Geek Network. We have all kinds of great stuff, guys. We have The Bottom Shelf, We Read Allegedly, Com Talk, the Spider Fan Podcast, which doesn't coming up. All kinds of great stuff there for you guys to check out and take part in the Discord channel for the Devoted Geek Life. It directly connected to Geek Devotions, and it is a Discord channel with all kinds of amazing Devoted Geeks who are into a variety of things. So great place. Branson, you got anything to add?
No, I think that's it.
All
Check
right.
out our other stuff. Keep listening to the Gundam Watch by all means, but there's a whole network of other stuff that for whatever you're into, whether it's reviewing terrible movies, comic books, book reading, whatever. There's stuff out there. Find something you're interested in and have at it.
Word. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay devoted.
Peace and love.